Hello and welcome to this Ruby Gosu tutorial, the first one in this series where we will create a game using Ruby and Gosu, the graphics library and game library and audio library and input library and whatever it is. Well, let's look at Gosu and see what it is. Gosu is a 2D development library for the Ruby and C++ programming languages, available for Mac OS X, Windows, and Linux. The C++ version is also available for iPad, iPhone, and iPod Touch. We're not going to do that. We're going to use Mac OS X, or OS X, or whatever you call it. I don't know. So, Gosu is a framework for making games with Ruby. And Ruby is awesome. So why not make games with Ruby? Yes, let's do that. So in this first video, we are going to create a game window and display a sprite in that window. Oh, that's freaking awesome. Okay, so let's just jump into the code. Okay, so the first thing that we will need is a file to write our code in. Because if we don't have a file, we can't write our code. It's as simple as that. Okay, so we have an empty directory here. Oh, well, it's not empty. Let's remove that file and just... Oh, it's an empty directory. Let's create a file. So we'll write touch and we'll call it main.rb. Now, you will need to have Gosu installed. So if you don't have Gosu installed or Ruby installed, you need to install Ruby, but you're going to have to figure that out on yourself, like how you will install Ruby. But if you have Ruby installed, you can simply type gem install Gosu and it will install Gosu. I already have the Gosu installed, so I don't need to do this. We're gonna do this anyway. Oh, it was installed. Okay, that's awesome. We just installed Gosu. So Gosu is installed. Now, and we have a main file, main.rb, that will contain our game code. So let's open a text editor. You can use like Vim or like VI or whatever you want. I'm going to use Sublime Text here just so we can see the actual file. Makes it a lot easier if you can see the code instead of just using Vim and going insane with it. But here it is. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do in our game is to require Gosu. If we don't have Gosu, we can't use Gosu. That makes sense, doesn't it? Okay, now we have Gosu. So let's run our game. Ruby.main.rb, and we just run that. And oh, nothing happens. Why? Because we're only requiring Gosu. We don't do anything. We just import the library. That does nothing. It just imports it. So we're going to need to create a window. That's the first thing we're going to do. We're going to do two things in this video. We're going to create a window, and we're going to display a sprite in that window. So the first thing we need to do is we need to create a game window. So we're going to define that variable here, and we're going to say Gosu window.new. And that takes two parameters, which is the width of the window and the height of the window. Oh, no, it takes three parameters, but it also takes a Boolean value that will say if we're going to display this window in full screen or not. We're not going to do that, so we'll just assign that one to false here. And we're going to run at a resolution of 800 by 600 pixels. And now we have defined our window. Let's run the game again. Woohoo! Nothing happens. Why doesn't anything happen? Well, we're only defining the window, but we're never telling the window to show. So we're just going to type game window.show. And run it again. And we have a window. We have a freaking window. That was so fast. That's just, that shows how awesome Gosu is. It just makes everything so easy. We just created a window, like with 2 lines of code, or 3 lines. Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So, in order to display a sprite in this window, we of course need some more code. But we can't just say like, game window display sprite. I can't even spell it right now. Sprite, that's like not, that's not that's not going to happen. So we're gonna need to define our own game window. So we're gonna call it, we're gonna define a class, and we're gonna call it a game window. That seems like a plausible name for a game window. It's a game window, so we say it's a game window. And we're gonna derive that from Gosu window, which is the class that we're using down here for the game window. You see, we're using Gosu window. So we're gonna derive our game window from Gosu window. And we need to end this class, and that's all we need to do to create our own game class. So instead of creating a Gosu window, we're going to create our game window, and just run this now. This is our window. We have our own class of the window that is running. That's awesome. Okay, so in order to display sprite here, we need to define a few variables. So not just variables, I'm sorry. We're gonna need to define a method, a draw method, where we will draw the sprite. I can type right now. I'm typing like crazy. This doesn't even work. Oh my god. End. Okay, so I'm using QuickTime to record this, and it's a bit laggy on my computer here. So let's use another function here. We're gonna define initialize, and that would need to call this superclass of this game window. So we're just gonna need to have some parameters for the initialize definition of this game window. So we're gonna need the width and the height and a full screen. I'm finding it extremely hard to type as I'm talking. So if I'm writing wrong all the time, it's because I'm talking and writing at the same time, and also that I'm kind of drunk because I just got home from the bar. So there we have it. Now we're defining our class. Let's run this again. And we are telling our window, whoops, that we are going to use the width and height and full screen of what we're passing in the constructor or the initialize method. So this works now. That's pretty awesome. Let's just change the resolution to see how that works, if it works. Okay, so we change it to 720p, and let's run this. Oh my god, we have a 720p window. That's fucking awesome. That's like HD, man. That's pretty cool. So let's change it back to 800 by 600 just to make it a bit more easy. And we're also going to need an update method, which we aren't going to use at all in this tutorial. So it's completely pointless. Oops, there you can see that I have not bought Sublime Text. I'm a sheepscoat. I don't buy stuff. Cancel that shit. It's not what we're doing. Okay, so we're going to display a sprite now. So what's a sprite? A sprite is basically a texture or an image, if you like. If you're like an image kind of dude or a dudette, or you know, whatever you are, I don't care. We're going to define a sprite. So we're going to create an instance variable, and we're going to call it like sprite because that's what it is. We're going to assign it to a Gosu image because that's what we use for sprites in Gosu. Also, we need to initialize it. So we call then the constructor on the image, and we need to pass something into this image. We need to tell what kind of image this is, what texture it's going to use, and we need also to pass a Gosu window, game window into this sprite. So we're going to use self because our game window is the actual window. It's a Gosu window. Like that's what it is. We also need to say that this needs to load a sprite. So we need a texture for this sprite. So what are we going to use? We're going to use something called, we're going to call it box.png. Box.png. That's what it is. It's box.png. We're also going to say that it's not tileable. It's false. We're not going to use this as a tileable image. So we're going to say that this is not tileable. We pass false. Okay? That's all we need to do to load an image in, or a sprite if you will, in Gosu. We also need to draw this image. If we just run this now, we will get an error that are telling us that, oh, we can't load this image. Box.png doesn't exist because we haven't created it yet. So we open our favorite image editing software thing, whatever you want. We're just gonna create an empty image here, and we're gonna draw some shit here. Like, I'm gonna draw some green lines here and a blue line. I want one blue line and some pink stuff because pink is fucking awesome. Okay, that's not even pink, that's purple. You know, purple is pretty awesome too. So let's save that into the folder or the directory or whatever you call it. I don't know. I'm not from America. I don't speak American very well, as you can hear. So we're just gonna place this into the directory. Where is it? It's Ruby. We're using Ruby, not salad. What the fuck is salad? Okay, Ruby. Oh, I have a lot of Ruby projects. Okay, so I think I called this one like Gosu tutorial 1. No, that's not it. Gosu tutorial. Gosu. What did I call it? Let's just print the working directory here. Ruby Gosu tut1. Gosu tut. There it is. We're just gonna save this image here as box.png. It's a box. You know what? Since we're calling it a box, let's create a freaking box. Like, now it's a box. This is a legit box. Okay, so let's close this drawing program and just, now we can see if we run the game again now, Ruby main.rb, we can see that it actually runs even though we are only loading the sprite. We're never using the sprite. So in order to use sprite, we need to call some kind of function on the sprite in the draw function. And surprisingly enough, that's a draw function on the sprite. What? That's crazy. But we can just tell Gosu to draw the sprite. We need to tell it where to draw the sprite. So we can just say like on the screen, because that's like obvious. We need to tell it on coordinates where to draw it. So like x, the x coordinate will be like 250, and the y coordinate will be like 250 as well. Yeah, so we can do that. So Gosu takes the draw Gosu. Yeah, I'm kind of drunk. Okay, so the draw function on the sprite or Gosu image takes 3 parameters, and it's the x-axis, the y-axis, and the z-axis. But now you're thinking like, what, the z-axis? We only use that for 3D. No, you don't, because you need a depth for the sprite. So if you're using like a ton of sprites, you're gonna want depth on the sprites. So you know, like the sorting order of which sprite is drawn on top of the other. So we're just gonna pass 0 there because we're only using one sprite, so it doesn't really matter. So if we just run this now, we will see that, oh my god, we are drawing the box on the freaking screen. This is like amazing. This is the coolest thing ever. And that sprite's actually looking pretty awesome. So that's freaking cool, man. Wow. That's 20 lines of code and we have a game window and a sprite drawn on the screen. Let's go crazy here. Let's just go bananas on this shit. And let's define 2 variables. We're gonna have one x variable and one y variable. If you're wondering about my language, is because I'm from Sweden. I don't speak English very well, so it's also because I'm drunk. I'm not that drunk, but I'm kind of drunk. So we're just gonna pass the x and the y variables into this, and we're gonna set it to the center of the screen, which is the screen width divided by 2 and the screen height divided by 2. So we're just gonna save this file and run it. Woohoo! And it's in the center of the screen. That's awesome. So let's just move the coordinates of the sprite and see if it moves. That's like, yeah, we're gonna do this. So we're gonna set the y axis to, let's say, 800 divided by 2 plus math sin, and let's pass like we're gonna have like a timer here as well, like timer. We're gonna call it total time equals 0, and then we're gonna increment this total time by 16 milliseconds per frame. So that's like 60 frames per second. And we're gonna say that we're gonna use sin with total time, not total time. That's something different. And we're gonna just make that a bit lower value, like yeah, like divided by 1,000, and we're just gonna run this and see what the fuck happens. Oh my god, it's completely still. Or am I? No, it's moving. Oh my god, it's moving. Let's just lower this value a bit, and then we'll see. It's moving incredibly slow. Yeah, you know what? I think just like this will be fine. Oh! Okay, so it's moving according to that value, but we also need to move it by some factor, like 100 pixels. And we'll see what happens. Oh, it's moving around 100 pixels based on the time now. So that's pretty cool. And that concludes the first part of this tutorial series on Ruby with Gosu. Now, I hope you have learned something, and in the next tutorial, we'll start making like a game or something, because that's fucking awesome. Game. Video games. Video games! Thank you. My name is Eric, and I'm kinda drunk. Goodbye. Goodbye, motherfucker!